So is 2026 the year that your child learns to read? If the fall was filled with tears or homework fights or I can't do it, then you're going to want to listen to why January really is a critical turning point month in your child's reading journey. My name is Faye Bankler. I am a dyslexia therapist. I am the home reading coach, and this is my YouTube channel called Teach My Child How to Read. I'm so glad you're here. So, January. The thing about January in schools is that is when administrators, teachers, everybody's shifting from who are we watching to who is at the top of our list. So, as a parent of a struggling reader, you're going to have 3 New Year's resolutions in January. The first is you want your kid on that list to be assessed. So, what that means is January is your month where you resolve that the wait and see period has expired. You are done waiting, you are done seeing, especially if your child is in first grade or beyond. Because what the data shows us is that as the kids move out of first grade, the window for closing the gap gets narrower and the opportunities for the best outcome get a little bit smaller with each passing school year. So, what does that look like if this is your first resolution? You want to submit in writing, not to the teacher. You can certainly copy the teacher, but the administrator in charge of special ed evaluations. At a public school, that's usually a vice principal. Sometimes there's a SPED coordinator, but you can always ask who you should address it to. You want to address in writing that you are looking for an SIE, a full individual evaluation for your child, that you want to do a complete check for any and all learning disabilities or anything that might be hindering their learning. Now, some schools get really antsy if you say the word dyslexia. They'll say, we can't diagnose dyslexia. They do it under a banner of specific learning disability. As long as you ask for testing for all learning disabilities and any reading related learning disabilities, your letter should cover it. Now, here's the important thing to know about this assessment if you're doing it through a public school. Just because you submitted the request in writing doesn't start the clock on when the law says when they have to begin and complete testing. What starts the clock is you have a meeting and signing consent to. So when you write that letter and when you have that conversation with whomever you need to talk to at the school, you need to include, and I wish to sign consent so that we can begin testing immediately. Because sometimes what will happen in a school is if an administrator, if a teacher knows that they've got somebody that they're concerned about, that they're going to want to test for, they might gather consent before the school year lets out, but not necessarily do it in January where they're going to have a backlog and have to get everybody evaluated before the spring. So you are going to leapfrog in front of those other people by insisting on signing for consent. The second New Year's resolution that you want to have as a parent of a struggling reader is that you want to begin to monitor progress. You want to empower yourself to do that. So what does that look like? Learning curve. And it's okay, you can drop on in here on this channel and we will be going over that learning curve and I will be holding your hand. What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to put a link down to some free online, pretty easy to understand, but I will go over it in a future episode. Just some simple screeners, some simple check-ins. And the purpose for that is for you to just set a baseline understanding of where your child is right now. So, some of the things you're going to do, depending on the grade, kindergarten first, you're going to make sure that the child knows all the letter names. The next thing you're going to do is make sure that the child knows all the sounds of the letters. And again, in a later episode, we can go over how exactly the sounds should sound. For example, t, not t. You don't want to put that in there. But I'm going to go into that in more depth. You want to see if they're at least how they're hitting it, if they can connect the two. And then the other piece that you can do is play with sound. So, cowboy, take away the cow, is boy. If I have the word pit and I take away p and put t, it is dit, right? Real word, made up word, doesn't matter. We want to get the sounds correct. So I'm going to go ahead and link some information in the description so you can find a few things. You can also time your child for 1 minute on a piece of text. And you just put plus signs for every word that they get correct or that they self correct within, say, 3 seconds. If you have to give them the word, or if they mispronounce the word, you just put a little O. And see how many they get correct within 1 minute. Those would be your correct words per minute. And then words correct divided by the amount of words that they attempted would be a percentage. In general, a child is comprehending if they're reading 90% or more words correct. So that's good. You're going to want to go ahead and do that just to get, like I said, a baseline understanding of where your child is right now so that you can advocate for them. I'll find a few phonetic sequences. They're generally aligned. Different systems might introduce different sounds in different orders, but certainly for our youngest kids, you're going to want to know the most frequent consonant sounds, the short vowel sounds, and then you start building from there. The last thing that is going to be your New Year's resolution as a parent with a struggling reader is to set some goals for y'all in your home. And just set some goals based on the data that you've taken. So if you see that your child doesn't know all the alphabet letter names, you're going to make a goal to learn a handful of letter names a week. Don't shoot for the whole alphabet at once. If they know many sounds, but not all of the sounds, then you're going to pick a handful of sounds to work on each week, that letter sound. If they're able to say cat and break it up into at, great. If they're not able to break it up, you're going to work on that. If you're able to say, guess my word is d, g, you want them to be able to say dog and blend it together. If they're not able to do that after they know their sounds, you set that as a goal. Just something really simple. Because I want you to feel empowered that you can play these small language games that actually have huge impact on your child's development at home while you're getting more confident in your role as someone at home who can support these kiddos. And the number one thing, of course, is that the wait and see time has expired. And even if you don't get to the other two resolutions, you're going to follow up on your first resolution and stay on top of them like a squeaky wheel. Now, if you're not in public school and you are concerned about your child's reading, you can, even if you homeschool, even if you go to private school, the federal law says that you can go to your homeschool and insist and ask for an assessment. And that will be done free of charge. You would follow all the same guidelines as before in writing, ask to sign consent. And then you can use that assessment to determine how you want to proceed. So if you're at a private school, they don't have to give you services, but if they do have someone on hand or if they do allow somebody to come in to work with that your child, you could do that. You might choose to hire a private interventionist. You might choose to do a home program.